back to another episode of Life on Cars, and today we're going to continue on with the theme of doing some preventative maintenance on the Jag. Those of you that are regulars to the channel have been following the videos where we're basically working our way through many of the service items on the Jag, on the XK here, that need doing to keep the vehicle running well. And one of the ones that's often overlooked is the fuel filter. Now these Jaguars, the XK X150 on the 4.2 engine, they do retain an inline fuel filter, which is actually starting to become quite a rare thing to find nowadays on modern vehicles. Most vehicles now have done away with an inline fuel filter, and instead they put a bigger filtration system around the fuel pump in the tank. But the XK retains that inline fuel filter, and looking through my service history, it looks very like the last time the fuel filter was changed was back in 2017 and over 20,000 miles ago. So I decided to get hold of a genuine Jaguar filter. It cost me £40. Now I think on the later XKs, the 5 litres and up over, they've done away with the inline fuel filter. Somebody might want to check on that for me. But I think on all the 4.2s, the XK and the XKR, they did retain the inline filter. Anyway, before we get started, let's have a look in the box and see what we're actually working with. Alright, so if you're interested, it's a C2P13476. I'll put a little note on the screen there. So yeah, I went for a genuine Jaguar one. You can get non-genuine pattern parts. I had a look online, and there are a few filters available for maybe like £29–30. So for the sake of 10 extra pounds, I thought I might as well get a genuine one. Managed to get this one from a dealer delivered from down the south of the UK, because my local dealer didn't have one in stock. It seems that it can be a bit tricky to get hold of these at the moment. Anyway, so there we are. That's what the filter looks like. It has a direction arrow, which is the direction of the flow of fuel that goes through it. It comes with a new bracket, so we'll see if we can replace the whole bracket as well. And these plastic caps come off. I'm hoping the connections come off fairly easy. They usually use a quick release style connector now, so that should be good. So right, I think we're ready to get over onto the car and start the job of doing the fuel filter. Okay, so we've got the car up in the air and a jack stand underneath. The fuel filter is actually, as you'll see in a minute, it's just forward of the rear jacking point there. But just a couple of things, plenty of ventilation, so I've got the garage door open, and because we are going to lose a bit of fuel out, it's inevitable that some fuel will escape while we're doing this, so plenty of ventilation just to get rid of that fuel vapor. It's also a good idea just to slacken off your fuel filler cap, because there may be some residual pressure, so I just tend to leave that slack when I'm doing a job like this. Alright, so there's the fuel filter. As you can see, it's definitely been on a while because it's starting to get a bit of aluminium oxidation on the actual cartridge. It looks like it's a genuine Jaguar one that's on, because I can see the black sticker there. Also, I've noticed on the bracket there, you can see there's a nut missing. There's only one nut. It looks like it's not had a nut on for a long time, so I might see if I can put a nut on that stud when I replace it. But yeah, it shouldn't be too bad. You can see there the types of connector. So you can see the grey plastic there on the fuel connector. You actually press them in with your fingers, and then that should quick release off. So that doesn't look too bad to do. So I think a bit of penetrating fluid on the nuts, and then we'll start to loosen it off and see if we can get some movement out of the bracket before we disconnect the fuel lines. Alright, so I've changed to rubber gloves because I don't want to get petrol on the other working gloves. So I'm just taking this bottom nut off. Like I say, the top one's missing, and it seems to be coming off alright. It doesn't feel like it's going to jam up, so I put a bit of WD-40 on it. Yeah, it's coming off alright, that. Because you can't actually see the top pipe. It disappears up there somewhere, so the only way to disconnect that is to obviously get the filter down over. Obviously we can get to the bottom one, no problem, but right, get that off. Alright, that's that out of the way. I've got a plastic container underneath ready to catch any spillage. So as you can see, that's all quite loose now. So it looks like what we need to do is we need to get the bottom hose disconnected, and then we might have a bit more movement. This is where we expect to see some petrol coming out. I can feel that disconnecting. Right, there we are. So there's that one released. As you can see, it's dripping a bit of petrol now. So I'm going to try and get that one off out of the way, like that. Not the best of things to work with these because they're quite a rigid fuel line. And then we'll drop the filter down and see if we can release the top one. We're getting some fuel out now, look. Hopefully that'll drain out and stop. Yes, it has. So let's get it dropped down and get the top one undone. So you can see what's happened now. I've been able to bring the fuel filter down, and we can now see the top connector there with the, you can just make out some blue tabs on it there, look. There's no way you can get to that until you've released the bottom hose and dropped the filter down. So we need to get that one released now. Alright, the top one's off and the fuel filter has come out. Just getting the remainder of the petrol into the bucket. And just going to take the opportunity while this is off, now that that fuel stopped, pretty much stopped dripping, just to show you these what you're working with, these clips there. So you can see there's like a locking tab on the blue, you can see on the top one there, the blue one, like a locking tab which engages. So putting them back on is just simply pushing it until you hear it snap into place, and then you can see the bottom one there, the grey one. So yeah, once I'd got that bottom one off and the thing come down, it was quite easy to get done. But I'm going to get back on because I'm getting high off these petrol fumes. Right, so there's the top one clipped on, and the filter bracket's just been located back on the stud. You don't need to worry if these are on properly or not, because they do make a nice satisfying click, which I will now demonstrate when this one goes on. So, hear that click? That means it's on. And then we can just monitor that for a bit and see if there's any excess fuel. Let's give that a wipe. It should stay nice and dry now. And I'm just going to let those fumes dissipate before I look at putting a couple of new nuts on the bracket. That's, you can see there, one's rusty. It's not had a nut on it for a long time, so I need to try and find a new nut for that. But yeah, it wasn't too bad. It's just a bit of fumes, a bit of spillage when you disconnect them. The tabs are a bit tight to press in on the clips, but it's only because they've not been pressed for a while. You'll feel them click if you get them in far enough. You've got to get them in quite a fair way to get it to release, but yeah, it's not too bad a job, and I think it was ready. Looking at the old one, we'll have a look at it in a minute. Just something I wanted to mention, guys, if you're having problems pressing them in far enough with your fingers, please don't be tempted to get any pliers, metal pliers onto here, because you could damage this. Instead, I'm going to show you a cunning little tool you can make with a couple of cable ties to adapt a pair of pliers to safely press those tabs in. Come with me. So yeah, like I said, you don't want to be squeezing those fuel filter quick release connectors with a pair of pliers like this, or even a pair of long nose pliers, because you can damage the those tabs. But what you can do, and what I've done in the past if I've had some problems, is you can take a tie strap, and basically what we're going to do is I just fit that tie strap around the end of the pliers like this. And then I'm just going to, well, actually, we can see there what you can see there. What I've done, I've basically just make that nice and tight around there like that. Okay. So then I'm just going to pop that off the end of the pliers like that, and using a sharp knife, just cut the end of that off like that. So now you're left with that. Okay. Now, do the same with another tie strap, and you end up with two. And then what you can do is pop them over the end of your pliers like that, and now you've got a tool which will depress. You can basically connect that over the top of your fuel pipe, and these two plastic ends of the tie straps will depress the tab that you saw just now on the fuel pipe, just that bit further than you might be able to do your fingers, to release the fuel line without damaging it, so it doesn't touch the metal part of the pliers, and those two ends of the tie straps do a good job of pressing the tabs. So there you go, top tip. Or you could buy a special tool for it, but then obviously you're spending more money unnecessarily. That's how much petrol came out, by the way, so you do need a bucket. So let's dispose of that in an environmentally friendly way. There's the old fuel filter. Look at it, It's been on there a while, that. If you've been mechanicking for a long time like I have, you'll have a tray like this which will get you out of the hole. There you are, that looks like the right nut, but I will need to find a spring washer as well to go on. Lovely. A little bit of grease on the threads top and bottom. Let's get these nuts wound back on now. Putting the new one on the bottom. Right, there's the top one tight. And the bottom one. Lovely jubbly. That's it, it's in. So what I'm going to do now, before I get the car back down, I am going to start the engine and just check there's no leaks from the fuel pipes. I'm not expecting it to be, but it's always a good check, just while we can still have a visual look. So as long as that's alright, the job's done. What you might find when you first start the car up after doing the fuel filter is it might crank over for another 2 or 3 seconds longer than it normally would. That's perfectly normal because obviously there's a lack of fuel in the fuel line, so it has to prime the filter and then get through to the injectors. So that's normal, don't worry about that. Time for a bit of bonus footage today, guys. I'm going to tell you a bit about these. So obviously a very important part, the fuel filter, because basically this is the only line of, or one of the, it's not the only line, there is a filter on the end of the fuel pump in the tank, but then this is a line of defense between the petrol and the injectors. So this is stopping any small particles of dirt finding their way into the injectors. Now you think the petrol that you get from a petrol station is nice and clean, but that's not the case. It does contain fine particles. So I'm going to show you something. I'm going to do something I used to do with my students to show them how important a fuel filter is. I'm going to cut this open and we'll have a look inside and see what sort of a job it's been doing and see how much dirt there is in there. Alright guys, we've cut through it. Now look how dirty the filter is inside. Obviously ignore some of those big bits of iron filings. That's obviously just where aluminium filings where I've cut through it, but It's really quite dirty, isn't it? Look at the dirt that it's. You can see the dirt on the membrane. Look how black it is in there. So yeah, I used to show my students this, just how you can see the dark areas where dirt has been trapped from the petrol. So yeah, if you have a look at this, so there's the direction of flow. So if you look closely, that's blocked. So the fuel, when it comes in here, it has no choice but to go through the paper membrane, and then it can't escape. Once it's got through and come into the middle, it can go down that hole and on its way to the injectors. So you can see there's a hole there, but that way it's blocked. So the fuel has no choice but to flow in and through the cartridge, and that collects the dirt as it's going along. So yeah, I'm glad I changed that, because like I say, looking at the element in here, it is quite contaminated. And I noticed when I opened it there was a bit of fuel came out and it was quite dirty. So there you may not have seen inside of a filter before, but yeah, that's what they look like when they've been on for a while. Well guys, I really hope you got something out of that video today, and I hope you liked it. If you did, please give us a like, and better still, give us a subscribe if you haven't already done so, or if you're new to the channel, and have a look around and see if you like any of the other videos that are in the playlist for the Jag, or any of the other playlists that I've got going on the channel. Thanks very much for watching. Hope you learnt something, and happy motoring. See you again very soon on Life on Cars. Take care.